You might not know my name. It's been lost to time, like a whisper in the sand. But my work, well, my work still stands. For generations, my family, my guild, we were the ones who cut the stone and raised mountains to the sky. We were the architects for the gods on earth. And this is our story.
Now, let's get one thing straight right from the start. You have to understand, what we built were not tombs. No, they were fortresses. They were our declaration of war against time itself, designed to protect our king's journey into eternity, and by doing that, to keep the entire cosmos in balance.
All right, Section 1, From Green Lands to River. You see, our story, my people's story, it doesn't begin where you think it does, with stone and sand. It starts long before that, in a world you would hardly recognize. Just try to imagine it. The place you call the Sahara Desert, but it's green. It's a sprawling savanna, dotted with huge lakes. That was our world, the world of my ancestors. But then the climate shifted. The rains, they just stopped coming. And over centuries, our green home burned away into sand. So what do you do when your world turns to dust? You run. A great migration began, pushing my people to the very edge of what a human can endure. So many were lost to the sands. But the ones who survived, they found it. A miracle cutting through the desolation. A great river of life. They had found their destiny, the Nile.
So, next up, Section 2, Taming a Wild God. We had found our new home, this incredible river. But destiny, well, it's rarely a gentle thing. The Nile was a gift, for sure, but it was also a wild, unpredictable god. To survive, we had to learn to control it.
Think about it. Every single year, the very thing that gave you life would swell into a raging monster, a destructive flood that wiped out everything. At first, we just fled, but then we started to watch. We started to think. How could we take this chaotic, destructive force and turn it into a blessing we could count on?
And this is how we did it. This is where we became who we are. First, you just observed the flood, what we called the inundation. Then came the big idea. What if we build basins, dikes, to trap all that water? But the real magic, the absolute game changer, was the thick, black silt it left behind. From there, it was all engineering, digging canals to store that water and move it to the fields. We didn't just survive the flood, we harnessed it. We became the world's very first engineers.
And that control, it changed everything. For the first time, we had more food than we needed. A surplus, mountains of grain. And when you're not constantly worried about where your next meal is coming from, well, you can start to build things. You can settle down. You can create a civilization.
So, Section 3, A Home for Eternity. We had figured out how to master this world, but our greatest challenge, my life's work, it wasn't about this world at all. It was about building a bridge to the next one.
You have to understand this. Our king, the Pharaoh, he wasn't just a man. He was a god walking on earth, Horus in human form. And when his time here was over, his spirit had to make a sacred journey through the stars to rejoin his father, Ra, the sun god.
And that was our divine brief, the absolute most important job we had. The Pharaoh's body had to be preserved forever. Because if his physical form, his anchor to this world was lost, everything would fall apart. The cosmic order would shatter. The sun might not rise. The Nile could dry up. We weren't just building a tomb. We were literally anchoring the universe in place.
Let's move to Section 4, Learning from Our Mistakes. And believe me, this was a responsibility we did not take lightly. We didn't just wake up one day knowing how to build a perfect home for eternity. Oh no. Our path was one of trial, error, and some pretty spectacular failures.
In the early days, we built these simple mud brick mastabas, but the wind and sand just wore them away to dust. Then, a true genius named Imhotep had the breakthrough. He decided to stack them, one on top of the other, but using a new material, stone. He created the very first pyramid. But then we got ambitious. We wanted a true, smooth-sided pyramid, and our ambition outpaced our knowledge, leading to a massive failure that, ironically, became our greatest teacher.
Ah yes, our greatest failure, the bent pyramid. We started it with this incredibly steep, proud angle of 54 degrees. It looked magnificent, until it didn't. Halfway up, the mountain of stone began to groan. We could literally see cracks forming in the casing. The whole thing was failing under its own weight. We had to change the angle, right in the middle of construction, to save it. It was a public humiliation, but it taught us the laws of physics written in stone.
And now, Section 5, our masterpiece at Giza. Armed with all this hard-won knowledge, my generation, we got the ultimate commission. Pharaoh Khufu himself decreed that he would have a pyramid that would stand above all others, a man-made mountain that would last forever.
The scale was, well, it's almost impossible to comprehend. We were talking about quarrying and placing 2,300,000 massive blocks of stone.
It would rise 481 feet into the air, a gleaming white point that would be the tallest thing ever built by human hands.
And for the king's sacred inner chamber, only the best red granite would do. We had to haul these 50-ton blocks all the way from Aswan, 800 kilometers to the south. The logistics were a nightmare, but we made it happen.
But how did we do it? I know the stories you tell, about whips and slaves. Forget all of that. This was a national project, an act of faith. When the Nile flooded each year, the farmers couldn't work their fields, so they came to build for their god king. They worked side by side with our most skilled masons. We used the floodwaters themselves to float the massive blocks on barges right to the construction site. On land, we used huge wooden sledges, wetting the sand in front to make them slide easier. This project unified our entire nation. Every single person who pulled a rope was helping to make sure the sun would rise tomorrow.
Okay, our last section, Section 6, a riddle for the ages. So after decades of labor, our work was done. We sealed our king inside his eternal home and left him to his journey among the stars. We thought our job was finished. But in raising a monument, we'd also created a mystery. A riddle in stone that would echo through ages you can barely imagine.
You see, it was never enough just to build high. We had to build right. The precision was everything. We aligned the Great Pyramid to true north with an accuracy your own instruments struggle to match. And the 3 Great Pyramids at Giza? Look closely. They aren't random. They're a map. A mirror on the ground of the 3 stars in Orion's belt, the celestial home of Osiris, god of the afterlife. We were writing the cosmos into the very landscape of our home.
And it amuses me, watching you explore it. You send these little crawling machines, your robots, up the narrow shafts deep inside, and you puzzle over them. When your little messenger reached the end of its journey, what did it find? A sealed stone door. And with all your cleverness, you drilled through it, only to find another door waiting patiently right behind it.
Do you see now? We didn't just stack stones. We built a fortress for our king, a reflection of the heavens, an engine for eternity. We built a mountain of stone and filled it with secrets. So I ask you, after all these thousands of years, as you stand in the shadow of my work, what do you, the children of a distant future, truly believe lies waiting just beyond that final door?